Welcome to the Dawgs Fantasy Football Podcast with your hosts, Justin Charles and Josh All.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Dawgs Fantasy Football Podcast. Josh, and I got Justin with me. He's not in the studio, but he's doing more dad stuff. He's pulling that dad duty every Monday right now, so he is at home coming in virtual, and just glad we get him back on the show here this week so we can... It was weird. Last week, I just did a quick solo, and it's just... Talking by myself just isn't the same, man.
Hey, I get it, man. Hey, props to you. I don't even know if I could do that for real. I'd kind of get lost in the sauce, get very off track.
You could do it. You love fantasy football so much. Justin and I actually faced off in two of our fantasy. We're in a bunch of fantasy leagues together. So we faced each other in two leagues this week, and you kicked my butt in one league, and I think I kicked your butt in the other league.
Correct.
So we were trading punches all weekend, but I don't think the two games tonight are going to make much of a difference on our outcomes.
No, I don't think so at all. The one league, it was like battle of the suck second quarterback. And, man, the one devastated me. Your guy broke me in a lot of leagues this week. Jaden Daniels, losing Jaden Daniels broke me in so many leagues. And then I went up against you. I have Dak Prescott and Lamar. Dak's on a bye. Started Aiden O'Connell. Wow. Yeah, that sucks also. So battle of the injured, broken quarterbacks there in week 7.
Or in my case, in the other league, battle of the not injured, just they sucked butt quarterbacks. I had Andy Dalton and CJ Stroud combined for not even 10 points. So that was a rough super flex kick in the nuts right there, man.
Crappy fantasy week kind of in general. Like I had leagues that I did great in. Like I think 3 of my 7, I was like, hell yeah, let's go. The other 4, I was like, I'm scrambling. The one league, I'm like, I might as well just tank. I'm in big trouble. And I think I'm 4-3 now. That's bad news.
I don't know. 4-3. Hey, 4-3 is better than being with your head underwater. I mean, I'm clawing back in one league. 3-4. It's a long fantasy season, and I think one piece of advice for people out there, just do an internal assessment of your teams. And I mean, there's a lot of fantasy players, and definitely the more casual, like your friends and buddies, work colleagues and stuff, that they don't really live and breathe fantasy. They just kind of do it for the fun. They might be 2-5 or whatever, and just 2-5 and say, I'm done, and they just phone it in, and they're not even setting their lineups, or they're not playing the waivers, and you might be sitting there at 3-4, and you've got a perfect opportunity to make a run at the playoffs because you got other people in your league giving up. So
I agree. The league that I'm probably in trouble in is a super flex, and my second quarterback, unfortunately, was Deshaun Watson. So it was already.
Yeah, it wasn't good to begin with.
Yeah, tough. And then but just saying how deep the rosters and the benches are, like that's basically the guys that are available are like 3-4 projected guys, no quarterbacks. There's no quarterbacks available in this league. And I have Jameis Winston, who might start, but they might go to DTR, who's claimed. I picked up Mason Rudolph. I don't even know if I want to start him because, that's not
that team
good
looks
either.
Rough, man. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I also have Hendon Hooker and Jordan Travis, but it doesn't look like they're going to be doing anything productive for me anytime soon. So yeah, it's a tough life right now in that league.
It is. So what we'll do here today on this episode, we'll kind of dive through some of the breaking news, the injuries that hit yesterday, because there were quite a few that we need to talk about that's going to impact fantasy football situations. And we'll just kind of run through some guys that had some good performances this week, or maybe some bad performances, what it might mean for fantasy if you're looking to buy or sell with trade. I know trade deadlines aren't like right around the corner, but we're about halfway through the fantasy season now, so it's time to start thinking, if I'm a playoff team, what pieces could I try to acquire for a playoff run? It's always better to start thinking about that earlier rather than late. So I guess we'll just go ahead and kick off the first one. It's the one closest to us, because we're Browns fans. And yeah, Deshaun Watson blew out his Achilles yesterday. It was a nasty injury. I mean, they showed it on the broadcast. Have you seen the video yet? You were at the game.
So during the game, we watched it.
Okay.
I took my daughter up and I went up with my mom, who's a diehard Browns fan, learn from the best, and went up, and you could just tell immediately something happened. You know what I mean? Just the way he kind of just fell and kind of gave himself up. I thought that he fumbled it because he gave himself up. I was like, oh my God, and immediately grabbed his leg. And we're like, uh-oh. And my phone immediately was just like one message after the other, like, oh, wow, that's bad, and I text you on the side and I was like, what's going on? How bad is it? And you were like, dude, you can see it snap on the broadcast, like, and nasty. I rewatched it yesterday, and like, regardless of what you think of the guy, devastating injury, probably career ending injury, just given all that's gone on, and just, but bad injury. A team that is completely lost as far as like any kind of momentum or direction at all right now. Different, wrong podcast that we're going to be preaching on here, but man, just completely like, oof.
No, I mean, just to talk about the injury, I mean, you could see the Achilles ripple like underneath his sock on the broadcast. I was like, oh, well, and like you said, probably a career-ending injury, not the injury itself, because he should make a full recovery. Everyone's like, well, he'll be ready for week 1 next year. I mean, we saw Kirk Cousins and Aaron Rodgers with Achilles last year. They're older. They made a fine recovery. They're playing this year, no big deal. But, with the Browns projected to have a top 5, and who knows, maybe even the number 1 overall pick, it's hard to imagine them not going with a quarterback and, just trying to find – there's insurance and stuff on the contract for Deshaun Watson. So there's cap things that the team can do. And I just can't imagine any other team signing him and playing him with his off the field, all that stuff surrounding him, that no one's going to bring that onto their team. So it very well could have been his last play in the NFL.
Yep. Yeah. I'd be willing to bet last play for sure as a Cleveland Brown.
Yeah. So fantasy wise, Browns traded Amari Cooper last week. We talked about that on the show, but it was like, okay, well, Jerry Jeudy's probably that, most realistic guy to step up and take over those targets. That was not the case yesterday. He was kind of a ghost out there. I don't know if the quarterbacks even knew he was playing. As far as fantasy players go on the Browns, it's David Njoku, and that's pretty much it. I think you can play Nick Chubb, but you have to hope for a touchdown. You're not going to get yardage. He averaged 2 yards a carry yesterday. The offensive line is horrible. They run primarily out of the shotgun. It doesn't work, and they're not going to change, I don't think. So
it's fair. To add a guy too, I think if depending on who the quarterback is, maybe if you want to take a flyer on a deep league guy, maybe Cedric Tillman. Cedric Tillman, a guy that kind of stepped up. I think he had 8 catches for 90 something yards. 81. Okay. I mean, I would have taken that yesterday.
12 targets.
A lot of 1s and 2s. Yeah.
12 targets.
A guy that probably is wildly available in like a deep dynasty league right now. Probably we'll see what happens this week on waivers, but
yeah, for sure. Let's see. Let's go to the, what's the next injury? We could talk about Brandon Aiyuk real quick for the 49ers towards ACL, correct?
Yeah. Yep. They just announced it, season ending knee injury. They thought yesterday that it was going to be an ACL, and it was just another ugly injury. Like you saw the replay and you're like, God, that doesn't look good. Like bent awkwardly at the knee. A team that already has a lot of injuries, as far as like with their skill players with CMC, not good. Another, I guess it was just like the thing on top of another thing with Aiyuk. Just a rough year, and maybe you thought things were kind of getting back on track, and then you have this now. So
yeah, so that's Deshaun Watson, Brandon Aiyuk, 2 guys with guaranteed money that didn't perform up to the level the team was hoping they would when they were playing, and now they're gone for the season. So very disappointing for those organizations. For the 49ers, I think the top of the waiver tomorrow is going to have to be Ricky Pearsall, right?
I would say Ricky Pearsall, and then depending on, league and bench sizes, maybe Juwan Jennings is out there. He's been injured, but it doesn't seem like it's a very serious injury. They're probably expecting him back this week. a guy you kind of rely on as far as like a Brock Purdy. He's a veteran kind of guy. You know what I mean? Ricky Pearsall, I think, has a lot of upside, but he's a rookie. Just came back this week. But I would take a look and see if Juwan Jennings is available. And if not, maybe, especially with what's going on with Debo. I know he was sick yesterday, left the game, and then was ruled out, I think, right after halftime. So I think that's another interesting. Those two guys are worth taking a peek at. They also have, there's another rookie. I can't think of his name.
Jacob Cowing.
Yes. Okay. And now I'd say that's a flyer. You know what I mean? But considering the depth chart, maybe he steps in and gets a little bit more look. Maybe he impresses some people. But I think those first two guys are the guys you want to take a look at. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think it just solidifies. I mean, he already was, but George Kittle's probably just tight end 1 on the year. Barring injury, which that's the thing with the 49ers, like the injuries are always a concern. You've always got to be worried about, is Debo going to make it through the game? Is Kittle going to make it through the game? So these guys don't come without risk. But, I tell you what, Brock Purdy is not looking great this year. For a guy who was in MVP conversations and stuff last season and playing really well in his first full season with the team, this year's not been good. Overall. I mean, 3 interceptions yesterday, no touchdown passes. I think he had a couple rushing. I know one was like a QB sneak, so it's not like, whatever. But the passing work is a little concerning. Kind of the same way the passing work, you got to be concerned. I know you're a Patrick Mahomes owner. You got to in a dynasty league, like you got to be. I mean, as far as a redraft goes, I think Mahomes should not be on anybody's roster, and I don't even know if he's worth streaming.
It depends, I guess, in like Superflex, obviously he's got to be rostered.
Sure, Superflex.
It's a Superflex, but like a 1 QB, give me Geno.
Right.
I mean, there's so many other guys. I mean, honestly, give me Drake May.
Yeah, sure.
Over Patrick. And I know that sounds absolutely crazy. People are going to be like, what the hell is this guy talking about? I've joked around with you as a Mahomes owner in Dynasty. I'm almost like, depending on what your QB situation is after that, obviously, he's going to be a starter for, you have to think, another 5 to 10 years easy. But it's very, very mediocre. He had a nice rushing touchdown yesterday, or at least a long rush play. And then he ended up with, I believe, a rushing touchdown. But I was going against a guy who had Mahomes in a Dynasty Superflex league. And I'm starting Jaden Daniels and I'm going, well, shit, I still have a chance here. I'm stuck at 5 points and he's barely pulling away from me. I ended up losing anyway because, nobody on my team showed up yesterday, but it just, I don't know. I don't know what you do. In a 1 QB, there's definitely other options. I mean, I would take Jared Goff at this point.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. The Patrick Mahomes rush yesterday was one of those plays that me being like a nitpicky rules kind of, call the plays evenly, referees and all that kind of stuff. I'm watching this play and I'm thinking, oh, it's total BS. It was a great move on his part because he's using everything that protects quarterbacks to his advantage, but he was running to the sideline. And players, how players are coming at you on the sideline, so they start to pull up because they're like, I'm not getting flagged for a late hit on the sideline on the quarterback. I'll just push him out of bounds. Well, then he decides to tiptoe the sideline and try to stay in and goes through an arm tackle and keeps going. And it's like, oh, man. But then if he takes the hit there, he's going to be PO'd and they're going to be throwing flags. And it's like, I feel for these defenders because they really do put them in a tough spot. Like, what are you supposed to do? That's kind of.
Since Tom Brady's knee injury, all the rules changes, everything as far as officiating is tipped towards the offense.
Sure.
Whether you agree with like hip drop, the hip drop tackle and all that stuff, like that's a different show also. But like all the benefits are for the offense. There's nothing really for the defense.
No, nothing at all. This episode is brought to you by Bodden Sports. Bodden Sports is your one-stop shop for all your athletic gear. Bodden started out perfecting and manufacturing the best balls in the business. Yeah, if that sounded dirty, that's more about your mind than my words. But hey, it's true. Baseballs, softballs, footballs, basketballs, volleyballs, soccer balls, you name it, and Bodden has engineered the highest standard sports balls available. And now they offer more than just sports balls. If you got kids playing baseball or softball, Bodden has batting gloves and bats to go along with both game balls and training balls. If you're into basketball, Bodden makes basketball specifically for indoor or outdoor use. Heck, Bodden even has all the equipment you need for pickleball, which is one sport that I hear everyone is playing, and yet I still never have. And I need to fix that soon. But don't miss the backyard games section of Bodden's website, where you can order everything you need for this upcoming outdoor season. Pool balls, backyard volleyball nets, croquet, bocce, horseshoes, cornhole, and more. Right now, you can get 10% off your entire order at Bodden Sports, BADEN sports.com/dogs, DAWGS, and use promo code DOGS when you check out. That's 10% off all the top quality sporting gear you need this season. BoddenSports.com/dogs. So we just got notification DK Metcalf had a knee injury yesterday.
Yeah.
What did it say? PCL sprain? Is that what it said?
So I didn't see what it was. I just saw that he was considered to be week to week. Which
MCL
I'm like,
sprain.
Oh boy.
MCL sprain. Okay, week to week. Yep.
So I mean that's another guy that's pretty much a lock-in starter every week. Depending on what your league is. I mean, I guess Jackson Smith and Jigba and Tyler Lockett, they get a better opportunity, especially JSN, a guy that we know is very, very good as Ohio State fans, just is kind of overshadowed, I think, for the most part. I think he has breakout games here and there, but not anywhere where you're like, I have to start this guy every week. He's a lock. I think he has probably however long DK's out for, kind of wheels up deal. Him and Tyler Lockett, as long as they're both healthy.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see what happens with JSN, if DK misses any time, because JSN had the 1 week where he had 16 targets or something crazy, had a big game. I think it was week 2. Yeah. And then that was it.
Nothing.
That's basically been it. So as far as fantasy goes, he's been essentially worthless. So if he's not able to do anything with DK missing time, now we've got a problem with JSN as far as fantasy goes. He's not a usable asset, but for the time being, definitely somebody to keep an eye on. I still probably wouldn't start him unless I have to, kind of as a desperation. I'd like to see him do it consistently before I do that. Let's see. Aiden O'Connell broke his thumb on I don't even think it was a helmet, was it? I think he just got it snapped. It was another guy's hand, the defender's hand.
I didn't even see the play just because we were coming back in from Cleveland, but I got the update. Basically, he was out. Gardner was in, and then Gardner Minshew. Ugh, I don't know what the deal is, but I honestly, Aiden O'Connell was going to be an emergency kind of streamer bye week pill, fill in for if you have a guy on a bye or if you have injuries. And man, they said he's 3 to 4 weeks. He's going to be out, and even then, are you really holding on to him? It's in a 1 QB. I don't even know what you're doing if you're starting Aiden O'Connell.
No, there's nobody doing that.
30 team. Or some wild, crazy shit you're in. I don't know, but there's no way that you're just in Superflex Dynasty, stuff like that. I can see how you could pick him up in a pinch and, try to stream him for a week or two, but not good. I don't really trust anybody in that offense.
No, not at all. Adam Schefter said it was 4 to 6 weeks, so it could be a little bit longer than that too. Like you said before, Jaden Daniels left the game early. Thank God he had the 50-yard rush because other than that, he would have goosed you with a rib injury. Said that there's no fractures, so it's just probably bruised ribs or whatever. They're not broken. Said he has a chance to play this week. Daniel Jones got pulled, but I'm pretty sure that probably had more to do with they were just getting boat raced.
Yes.
It wasn't even a close game. So Drew Lock came in. Dayball comes out and says Jones will remain the starting quarterback in week 8. I don't know how much longer that's going to last, though. The Dolphins are getting Tua back. No, I'm sorry. Well, he's designated to return from IR. That doesn't mean he's coming back right away, but his practice window opens. So, I mean, if you've got Tyreek Hill, I've got Jalen Waddle in a league where I haven't been able to play him.
Yeah,
he's just sitting there, and I can't cut him because, of course, people are going to pick him up. I can't trade him. Nobody wants him. For a trade.
It's one of those things you have to sit on those guys. And I think it's going to be beneficial for every player in that offense. Johnny Smith, I don't know where that came from yesterday. I'm looking at tight end scores, and he puts up 22.8 or something like that in a PPR, and I'm like, what?
Yeah, I'm sure that's just a one-off.
2 years ago. It's got to be a one-off. But as soon as Tua is back in, you got to think Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, they're all good to go again. I'd expect, as long as Tua just forgot how to play quarterback, I think you're good to go.
Yeah, I think what we're seeing, though, is like Mike McDaniel, maybe not quite the offensive mastermind we thought, because without Tua, they are inept. Like, they can't do a thing. And it's okay, so you lost your quarterback. You mean you can't scheme up a way to get Tyreek Hill the ball in space, like a quick pass, and try to let him do something after the catch?
Right.
Like, what are they doing? It's one of those things where it just make you scratch your head as to, the effectiveness of the head coach there. Let's see. The Saints head coach, Dennis Allen, says Spencer Rattler was going to start again if Derek Carr can't play this week. Honestly, if I was the Saints, I'd probably just start him the rest of the year. They suck. Like, they're terrible.
But he sucks too. You know what I mean? Like, I know he's like a gunslinger and stuff like that, but man,
it's hard to judge anybody against the Denver defense because they're one of the best in the league. I don't think they have many like super easy matchups coming up. They don't get to play Jacksonville or Washington, I don't think, anytime soon. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know.
Cleveland.
That's true. They do get to play Cleveland.
Cleveland's coming up.
Yeah, so but with Cleveland, the defense is still, they limited Joe Burrow yesterday.
True. I thought they played decent, all things considered.
All things considered. They only gave up 14 points and we still lost. So
yeah. Yep.
Wonderful. Were there any other injuries from yesterday that I'm missing?
No, I think that covers a lot of them. I can scan real quick. I do think, I can think of a flyer guy that I picked up, and I had him on my bench just because I was just curious to see what would happen. Picked up Juju see let's see what happens. There's no real wide receiver one, there's no real offense right now, which is crazy other than Kareem Hunt.
They stuck him into that Rashee Rice role. So that's a great pickup. Yeah.
Yep. And then, but a big dud,
hamstring,
leaves the game. Leaves the game hurt. Kareem Hunt's just killing it. I know he's not great yards per carry, but it's death by 1,000 runs with him. And he looks good. If he's a fantasy asset moving forward, I'm not sure how it'll work out when Pacheco comes back, but I think he's carved out a role at this point.
Pacheco, the broken leg, we saw Tony Pollard come back. He broke his leg that season in Dallas toward the end of the season. Mm-hmm. So he didn't come back that year, but he came back the following season and was still not very effective until about halfway through the year till he started to get that juice back. I'm not expecting a ton from Pacheco coming back, and I definitely think it will be a timeshare, and I think they'll probably lean on Kareem Hunt as long as he's still able to carry the workload and he's not banged up or whatever. So I think Kareem Hunt, if you picked him up off waivers, you got a good one.
It's a win.
Yes.
It's a win. Yep. He's 3.5 yards a carry, but if you do that a whole bunch of times, you're going to get some first downs. You should be good. Yeah.
Another running back that if you picked up off waivers, you're probably happy, at least if you played him this week, and that'd be Tank Bigsby for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Yeah. My goodness. I know they're playing New England and everything, but this is what this guy does. He just looks like he's got such tackle breaking ability, and he's a hard-nosed runner, very physical. I wouldn't throw him the ball very much because woof. But, if you're a Travis Etienne owner, you got to think whenever he comes back from his injury, this is going to be a very much split backfield.
Mm-hmm. And coach is saying all the right things. Etienne's still the number one guy when he gets back healthy, blah, blah, blah. I don't know how you turn away from that. The dudes look great.
He was already not necessarily the number one guy whenever he was healthy. They were pretty much split carries, at least whenever, before Bigsby got his injury and everything. But, man, 26 carries, 118 yards, 2 touchdowns, Jacksonville, they came out yesterday. They got down by 10, and then it was just nothing but Jacksonville the rest of the game. And they just piled it on. I know. Brian Thomas Jr. looks like I think I heard a stat today that through the first 7 games of a player's career, him and Randy Moss have over 500 yards in their first 7 games of their rookie season.
decent company to be put in. He
Not
looks like
bad.
he's a steal. He looks like an absolute steal in Dynasty right now because you probably took him at 8, 7, 8, 9, 10, somewhere in that range, depending on needs and what guys were doing. Huge steal. You know, look back now. Would you rather have Rome Odunze or would you rather have Brian Thomas? You know,
At this point in time, it's definitely Brian Thomas. I know I took him in a dynasty league over the decision was him or Xavier Worthy.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I've not had good luck drafting receivers in dynasty leagues and rookie drafts, but I just had a feeling about this guy. And so far, he looks awesome.
He's the dude. Yep.
He is the dude. Let's see. Were there any other players you want to talk about specifically?
I guess one that is concerning, but I'm not too concerned moving forward. Malik Neighbors had a tough game. You know, first game back from concussion, the Giants looked awful. Everybody looked bad. I don't think that is going to be a trend. I mean, I know it seemed like they had kind of turned it around. You know, I started feeling like they were, I don't want to say they were a good team, but I was like, hey, they're a little more competitive than we're giving them credit for as far as like fans, you know. But yeah, that one was tough. Malik Neighbors, the guy I traded for in a bunch of leagues just based off of like, man, I think this kid is a stud, and I still think he's a stud. I think his upside is insane as far as dynasty, even in a redraft. I think he can win you a lot of games, but that was 8 points. That's tough.
It's not what you were expecting. I know I've got him in a dynasty and a redraft league where I was playing him yesterday, but I mean, next week's going to be, I think is it Monday night? Monday Night Football against Pittsburgh. Not great. Not great. Yeah. But after that, it's Washington, who you can beat in the secondary. Then it's Carolina. Yes, please. Give me all of Malik Neighbors. Then they get a bye, and then it's Tampa Bay, who you can throw on. Dallas, New Orleans, Baltimore, Atlanta, Indianapolis. All very beatable passing defenses and secondaries. So the rest of the way after the Pittsburgh game, and then all you got is the bye week to navigate with Malik Neighbors. But I think he is set up for an end-of-season stretch that's going to be It'll might even put him into first rounds of fantasy drafts next year, like redrafts.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
So, go ahead. What did you have? Somebody else?
So just going back to an old topic that we have touched on a few weeks ago, we went down the should you trade Josh Allen path, and I do have an update on the story. It's a 3 keeper. But I traded Josh Allen away, and I made some moves prior to the trade. I picked up Drake May, and I kind of was like, okay, hey, you know, I have a second quarterback just in case that anything goes sideways here. But I pulled the trigger I traded away Josh Allen and Jonathan Taylor, who I like Jonathan Taylor, but I can't keep him on my starting lineup because he's never healthy.
Never.
And I was able to get back Jared Goff, who I think he's on a run right now. Like he let that whole team, the whole offense looks great. I was able to get Malik Neighbors and also CMC, which CMC just went straight to the IR. We'll see how it plays out. Because obviously Jaden Daniels was my starting quarterback, my number 1 with Josh Allen. And it was a nice combo. And as soon as I got rid of Josh Allen, Jaden Daniels goes out. So now I'm like, well, here we go. Maybe I shouldn't have done that, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, of course, Josh Allen goes and has a big day yesterday, 323 yards, 2 touchdowns, has not thrown a pick all season, so that's pretty nice, but only had 1 rushing yard, so not a whole lot on the ground. Yep. The rest of the season for him, though, I mean, he's got a couple nice games coming up here the next few weeks, but then it's Kansas City and a bye, and then San Francisco, and then in the playoffs, he's got Detroit, New England, and the Jets, which by then New England might be totally toast, but a couple tough matchups there with Detroit and the Jets.
Yep. Jets, another team, other than Breece Hall. I mean, Breece Hall is phenomenal. I watch Breece Hall and I'm just like, Jesus, just give me all the stock in Breece Hall that I can get my hands on. You know what I mean? The guy is an absolute stud, but man, what Aaron Rodgers, yikes. You know, Davante Adams, a guy I ramped up this week. I was like, hell, I'm going to start him. I'm going to throw him out there because I traded for him. I have the bench on my team it's deep. It's a good team. So I'm like, I could probably will go a couple different directions, but I was like, hell, it's Davante Adams. I'm starting him. That was a miss. It was just a tough fantasy week. A lot of the guys that I usually just lean on and get 15 to 20 from, I did not get 15 to 20 from.
I mean, with Adams, the process was there. He got the targets. He had 9 targets.
Yes, 9 targets.
Just 3 for 30. Garrett Wilson, everybody was kind of worried. How's it going to fare out? He also had 9 targets, caught 5 for 61. But my goodness, this guy is the most frustrating because I've got him on a team. And I'm like, dude, you could be so good. But he has like lapses of, what do I want to say, concentration. The second interception for Aaron Rodgers was off of Garrett Wilson's chest. All you had to do was catch it, and he's got a big gain down the sideline, pops in the air, gets picked off. And he had a couple other passes I saw where it was just, he dropped them. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it kind of sucks right now.
Yeah.
And he's a good player.
I think his upside's crazy.
Yes.
I think, and he's a guy like, we've talked to like, what's his dynasty value? His redraft value, I'm not sure about right now. I think Javonte ends up kind of like vulturing a lot of the passing yards away. Him and Breece Hall. Breece Hall had a huge, I think he had 100 yards receiving yesterday. But I still think Garrett Wilson's like value moving forward is good. If he ends up going to a different team, which I don't think that will happen, but I know they've kind of talked about it, entertained it. Teams have called. I think he's got great upside.
So
it's just,
I'm glad you brought that up because they obviously just traded for Davante Adams. They're reuniting one old man with another. Him and Rodgers don't have a whole lot of time left. The Jets are 2-5.
Yeah.
And not that their division is great or anything, but the Bills are well ahead of them. Mm-hmm. And at the moment, it's not like they're not really in position to contend for a wild card spot at them. Like they're going to have to rattle off some wins and start piling some wins together. But if they lose a couple more games and it's like they're not going to make the playoffs, do you try to recoup some draft capital for Garrett Wilson and send him to somebody like the Chiefs who could desperately use him?
Yeah. I'm not sure what to think of what the Chiefs are doing, but I've been making sneaky kind of pickups in like redraft leagues, like DeAndre Hopkins. I know he's washed. I feel like he's washed, but I'm picking him up in leagues because I'm like, especially depending on the bench and everything, I'm like, and if he's available, I'm like, yeah, if he ends up going to the Chiefs or, for some reason, like a Bills make a move. I know they have like no money left to pretty much get anybody, but like, let's say he goes to a team like that, high-powered offense. I think it's interesting. You know what I mean? So I think he's an interesting stash kind of guy. Him, Garrett Wilson, Garrett Wilson's obviously like he's on lineups. You're starting him probably in most leagues that you have him. But like there's guys like that can get traded and immediately almost be like league winners. I think Garrett Wilson on like the Chiefs would be a league winner.
Oh, for sure. And that's why those are the type of things that it's a little pie in the sky. It probably won't happen. It's unlikely if the Jets are, maybe it's not looking great this year, but they're confident Rodgers is going to play again next year and they think they can run it back with this defense. They'll probably keep him and just try to go that route. But, if they feel like this kind of looks like the end of an era, we got to look for a new head coach. We're going to be probably getting a new offensive coordinator. Maybe Rodgers doesn't come back. Adams is going to be like 31, 32. Maybe we just kind of start over, do like a soft retool here and look for a new quarterback and all that kind of stuff. In which case, I don't know. I don't know what they're thinking, but you mentioned the Bills and I just wanted to bring it up. Amari Cooper, who just got traded there, 5 targets, 4 catches, 66 yards and a touchdown in his first game there. And I heard a stat. He only ran 12 routes. So they brought him in easy because he just got there a couple of days ago. And, on those 12 routes, he was heavily utilized. So almost targeted on half of them. Keon Coleman actually had
a nice game.
His nice first big game, 4 for 125 on 7 targets. So, I don't know, man. The Bills have been a little bit wishy-washy this year. They struggle sometimes. In other games, they're just lights out. But, when you play the Titans, it kind of helps, I guess.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
We got several not good football teams in the NFL right now. This episode is brought to you by Danger Coffee. We talk about how Danger Coffee is made free from mold toxins that are in 45% of the world's coffee, but that's not all that Danger Coffee has to offer. Mineral and nutrient deficiencies are a big deal. They make you feel sick, tired, stressed, and they can give you brain fog. These deficiencies negatively affect your immune system, your digestion, sleep, metabolism. Have you ever wondered why you get an initial burst from your coffee, but then you get that little crash not long after? Danger Coffee's patent-pending process remineralizes your body with more than 50 trace minerals and electrolytes, leaving you more energized, engaged, powerful. These micronutrients enter the cells to boost performance. They bind to toxins to provide detoxification support. I know that sounds like a lot, but the bottom line, guys, is minerals matter. And most of us really don't get enough of them on a daily basis. Danger Coffee delivers micronutrients. Plus, it gives you access to the minerals you already have. Head to dangercoffee.com, use our code DAWGS, D-A-W-G-S, for 10% off your order. And that code can be used over and over. So you get 10% off every order you make using code DAWGS. It's time to start every day off with a cup of coffee that gets you going and actually keeps you going. dangercoffee.com, code DAWGS. So another guy that I really think that in a redraft league, if you're starting this guy, go ahead, drop Anthony Richardson. I don't think it's coming this year. He gets Houston this week, so I mean it could be okay, but Minnesota after that, that is a hellacious defense. Buffalo, the Jets, Detroit, and then in the fantasy playoffs, it's Denver and Tennessee. They get to end on the Giants, but you ain't getting to championship weekend if you're starting Anthony Richardson.
No, which is what a disappointment. You know what I mean?
Big
Especially
time.
Considering all the upside, all the hype. I mean, he looked like a guy that was like big Lamar. Like, he's super athletic. He's strong. You know what I mean? Like, big arm. We had questions because we cover the drafts and stuff like that for the Browns, and like, guys that we are on the show with said, he sucks. He's not accurate. You know what I mean? Like, what's the point of having a guy like that when you're starting quarterback, your QB1 and one quarterback is giving you 8 points, is giving you games where they miss, and then they're injured and can't stay on the field. And then you have Flacco and guys like that coming in and putting up 25 to 30. Not good, man. And I don't know how short the leash is. You know, they spent a fourth, like the number 4 overall pick on him. So you got to think that they're going to probably stick with him, but yikes, it doesn't look good. Doesn't look good at all.
No, it doesn't. And I mean, to be fair, it didn't look good with Josh Allen either. The first like year and a half or so,
that's
2
fair.
years. I think it was his third year that he really started to correct that accuracy and started to become Josh Allen as we know him now. But this guy's got a ways to go. He's really got a ways to go. And as far as in a fantasy league, especially a one quarterback redraft, the dude belongs on waivers. He's not going to get it done for you. So.
And I have no interest in any of the guys.
No, none.
That he's like, if he's starting, I have Josh Downs in a lot of leagues. Bench. Pittman. Bench. Like, to me, the only guy that I would say is fantasy relevant would be Jonathan Taylor. And
he's hurt. If he ever plays again, absolutely fire him up. But that is it. That's the only one.
Yep.
Man, that's another team. They're 4-3. But man, are they disappointing. Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing. Like, we saw with the Browns last year, Joe Flacco comes in, he moves the ball down the field. Richardson just does not see the field yet. And it's a little concerning for sure. Trying to see any other players we wanted to really dive into here. CJ Stroud, rough game against the Packers.
Yeah.
They're really leaning on Joe Mixon when he's healthy.
Yeah.
So I think you got to temper expectations a little bit for CJ Stroud right now. I think with Nico Collins out, they're not really using Tank Dell a ton. You know, Diggs is okay, but I think they're going to primarily run through Joe Mixon until they get their weapons back in order.
That's right. Yeah, don't panic. Don't sell in Dynasty.
Yeah.
I think, I guess depends on what the offer is, but like a Dynasty league, quarterback's value is crazy anyway. they're so like for me, I'm like, I can't get enough quarterbacks. I know you're like that also. Yeah, just it's one of those things, especially where you took him at probably in a rookie draft. You just got to ride it out.
Yeah. And then like for the Packers, dude, I picked up Christian Watson off waivers this week. Somebody dropped him and I thought, you know what? I'm going to plug him in and shoot for some upside here. 1 catch on 2 targets for 9 yards. He's going back to waivers. I'm done playing the roulette game with the Packers receivers.
Yeah.
Like the only one, honestly, Romeo's the only one I might consider holding on to. I think Wicks, you can just he's not reliable. Jaden Reed,
he had a tough game.
He did. Yeah. I wouldn't drop Jaden Reed, but now you know that, well, he can do this 2 for 10. Tucker Kraft, I mean, he had did you see his touchdown catch?
I did not, but I saw it pop up.
Man, his touchdown catch was nice. It just makes me happy because I was so on Tucker Kraft last year as a rookie over Musgrave, and to see it come to fruition is pretty cool. But even he only had 3 catches for 33, so it would have been a blah game if it hadn't been for the touchdown.
Right. Yep.
So it's tough in those streets, man. I just kind of keep going back to, if you've got Brock Bowers, congratulations. Good for you. Yes. And of course, George Kittle, the one guy that you and I were like, a pass this year.
Don't do it. Yeah. I've been on that. Like, just too inconsistent. Can't stay healthy. He'll give you 20, but then he'll give you 2. I just can't do it. He's not that guy this year. He's very valuable.
He is. And I mean, Evan Ingram, 5 catches, only 35 yards still for the tight end position. I think if you've got him, as long as he's healthy and active on game day, you fire him up,
Yep, that's where I'm at with it. I saw the line and I was like, I was like 8 points. I'm like, whatever. I promise you he's starting next week unless you have somebody unless you have Brock Bowers, you know?
Yeah. So I'm trying to think if there was any other like running back situations this week or anything like that. I guess we can just talk real quick. Like Russell Wilson got the start over Justin Fields this week. And for the first part of that game, man, Russell Wilson looks bad. Like he's throwing balls 10 yards behind guys on screens, like in the dirt. And like, holy crap, this guy blows. And then, he just kind of strung it together there. And
QB1 on the week.
That's insane, man. Yeah. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. He's a longtime vet. It's not his first rodeo or anything like that, but they have let's call it a not difficult schedule coming up. So
That's fair. That's fair.
If you've got any Steelers players, it's pretty cool, man. You got the Giants and then a bye week, but then you've got the Commanders. You got Baltimore, who you can pass on. You got Cleveland, Cincinnati, Cleveland. Yep. You got Philly. Yep. You got Baltimore again. You got to end on Kansas City, but man, it's a nice stretch for Pittsburgh actually coming up.
Yep. And Pickens' value looks like it's absolutely going to ascend with Russell Wilson as the quarterback.
That one catch where he caught it like 4 or 5 different times off the guy's, off his back or his arm. And then he knocked it out of his hands and he picked it up in the air and he kind of watched it and looked at it and was like, oh, I guess I'll catch this. And I was like, oh my God.
We've seen him make catches. Like I was at I can't remember if it was a Monday night or a Thursday night game where he made this sideline catch where he basically full laid out, contorted his body sideways and caught this ball on the sideline. And I was like, holy crap, this dude is for real. Like if there was any doubt that he was not maybe the guy, it's weird how he's utilized in Pittsburgh. That's my only concern, but it seemed like they were feeding him it. And Pat Freiermuth had a couple of nice catches too. So, it looks like they're going to be all right. Najee, Jalen, I don't know how to feel about Jalen Warren still, but Najee's Najee right now.
Dude, Najee looks great. He clearly lost some weight. It's helping him with his speed and his burst, his explosiveness. He looks like the running back I thought he was going to be coming out of Alabama a few years ago. He just never was, and now he finally looks that way. But Jalen Warren looked juicy last night. Like he got a couple of handoffs where it was like, damn, this guy. He's smaller, but he doesn't run like it. He runs fast and hard, and he picks up. So I think there may be a little bit more of a balancing there, but definitely Najee's the guy to have right now.
Absolutely.
What do you think about like Javonte Williams on Thursday night? Was that just kind of I got to play the Saints situation, or?
I don't know. He's a guy that I got rid of a lot of my stock in him just because I was just like, I'm tired of waiting for this and some dynasty like super flex stuff. I still have him around just because you're probably not getting anything back trying to trade him. You know what I mean? Like what you would expect from an RB1, especially how old he is. But yeah, that game came out of nowhere. I mean, I literally opened my phone up and was like, 25. Okay. We did a podcast that night, for the other show. And I saw him get a touchdown. I was like, oh, that's cool. All right. That'll help. But yeah, it kind of just came out of nowhere. And there's a lot of running backs in that room that I think have a ton of potential. Like I think Audric Estime is really good. Jaleel McLaughlin's nice. Blake Watson, I think down the road could be nice. These are all deep dynasty guys, but like, yeah, Javonte, he looked like Javonte.
He did. I guess we'll try to wrap it up here soon here, but Chase Brown, I'm trying to remember the snap or the carry opportunity between them, but Zach Moss was basically a nothing burger yesterday against the Browns. Right. It was primarily Chase Brown, and I think that shift has happened. Like I think that it's Chase Brown RB1 for the Bengals, 15 carries yesterday, so that's great utilization. Only got 44 yards. I will say the Browns defense has shored up the run defense the last few weeks. They shut down Saquon Barkley, and they very much limited Chase Brown. So they've got Philly coming up, then Las Vegas, but then they get Baltimore and the Chargers. I don't expect big outputs from anybody running against those two teams. Then they go on a bye. Then they come out and play Pittsburgh. So it is going to be a rough month stretch for Chase Brown for fantasy.
Yep. Yeah. Stuff.
So just stuff. Look ahead at the schedules for some of these players because, you could use a guy like Chase Brown maybe to package with another guy to go level up at the running back position because he's playing well, and I think he's got a perceived value now that's like, okay, Chase Brown is a desirable asset for fantasy leagues, and if you package him with somebody else that's attractive in a deal, you might be able to get a better running back because I think this stretch of games coming up over the next couple of weeks might be okay, but after that, I think it's going to be rough sledding for him.
Sure. Yep.
So
that's fair.
All right. Well, I think that pretty much wraps it up for this week. Just kind of another quick recap of week 7. It was nuts. We got all the stupid injuries and stuff. I'm just fantasy, man. Fantasy.
It's hard to survive out here, man. Some leagues I'm doing well. Some leagues I just changed my name to Team IR. It's rough. I can't even put a roster together some weeks.
Yeah, it's definitely bad. I wanted to shout out Mama Tendo. She was a longtime member of our dog pack, our Patreon group and everything. I went up against her. This is just now her second year playing fantasy football. Went up against her in our dog pack league. And she was I think she started off 0-3, put together 3 straight wins, got to 3-3. And she's like, great, now I got to face Josh. I've got like a super team. She was afraid I was going to just blow her out of the water. And I only got her by 15 points.
Okay.
So
that's surprising. Okay.
Yeah. So she did very well this week. And she also kind of lucked out because I did have Jaden Daniels in that one. Yeehaw.
Stuff.
But hopefully he's back next week and all is well. So
I really hope so. Cause if not, I'm going to be losing next week.
Yeah.
In some leagues, in a lot of leagues.
I think it's okay. I think honestly, yesterday, I feel like he could have come back in the game probably after halftime if they needed him, but dude, they didn't need him. They were just murdering the Panthers. Oh my gosh, that game. I honestly expected that to be a little more competitive. I started Andy Dalton in 2 leagues, Superflex leagues, where I needed to. I had other injuries. I'm like, well, he's going against Washington secondary. Surely he can. Nope. Can't. No.
Starting to hear rumblings of maybe we need to go back to Bryce Young.
Boy, you're playing like garbage when that's coming.
Yeah.
Jeez. Yep. All right. Well, thanks again for everybody tuning in. I forgot the top of the show, but if you're watching this on YouTube, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, help us continue to increase our subscribers. Maybe we can get to a point where we can monetize this channel, all that kind of fun stuff. And if you're, listening on audio, drop us a review, 5-star rating, all that kind of stuff. It sure helps us out. So we appreciate it. And we will be back with you guys again next week.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Dawgs Fantasy Football Podcast. Make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube and follow the podcast on social media at the Dawgs Fantasy.